I mean, look, the xenophobia, the racism, the absurdity that passes for federal policy right now.
Yes.
You have a president who both reflects and instills forms of hatred that we don't, and racism that, frankly, we know and knew had existed.
Right. It's not new.
It's not new, but I think what I'm feeling now is this lament of the kind of affirmation and confirmation of the hurt and the hatred amongst our white brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And, race and anti-Asian racism is not a new thing. And, anti-Black racism is not a new thing. And so on. It's just that the brazenness is so unrelenting.
And it is brazen, right, David?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is. Oh, yeah. It feels like, over time, we've had immigration policies that were against Asian folks. We just think, oh, it's World War II, so even though you're a citizen, we'll just inter you. The seasons of anti-Asian prejudice, racism, hatred have been many. But what is the freedom that people have to show their butts?
Right.
There's a kind of all gloves off ugliness that comes with this administration's absurd, xenophobic, white supremacist, masquerading as democracy.
Yeah, it's certainly the administration, but it's not just the administration.
Right.
I mean, the zeal and the stridency around the racism that we're seeing now and the violence that we're seeing now. We know it's been a part of the culture, since our inception.
Yes.
The lament I have is that, the willingness or the freedom that folks feel to go to their basest natures.
Yes, that's right, Dave. That's right, David.
Right?
That's right.
So let's be the worst versions of ourselves. Let's be the most selfish versions of ourselves. Let's be the least compassionate. Let's be the hateful versions of ourselves.
Right.
And, that's a very hard space to be in. And it's very hard to, face that where, you don't know where the violence will come. You don't know when it's going to come.
Right. But you kind of are sure it's coming.
Oh, yeah. No. And I think that's the, as we were talking earlier, the kind of unrelenting stress that we're all feeling.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to come at us at any given moment or any given day.
That's correct.
Right. Amy and I were walking down the street at the beginning of the shelter in place. And, we just wanted to get some air. And we're in Oakland, California, this multiracial, justice-centered city.
Right.
And this guy drives by in a truck and starts screaming things. And he's like, "What's that?" And I couldn't even make out all the words. And I said, "That was for me." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I could feel it. It's like even the intonation of the voice and the things that were coming out." And I said, "That was for me."
That was for you. That was for you, quote unquote, Chinese person, right. Quote unquote, got the virus with your Korean self. Right.
That's right. And that's real. And that, some days it might be a guy driving by in a truck.
Right.
But who knows, someone coming with fists or knives or other brutal things. And no one wants to live that way.
No.
And no one wants to believe that our fellow citizens and others would do such things, but of course they will.
But they will. Yeah, they will. One of the things, David, that I just want whoever watches this, whoever listens to this, to be thinking, three things. One, the myth of white supremacy is a myth. And white people, y'all need to get in the game of dismantling the myth. It might start at your dinner table with your children. It might start with what you do at work, at the water fountain, or what kind of policies you're in charge of. You have power to change the story. You have power to change the story. Two, people of color. We don't get to have oppression Olympics. We don't get to have who's really the worst off and blah, 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 blah. And what really annoys the hell out of me is Black and brown people, Black and Chinese people, Black and Asian people fighting for limited resources as though we don't understand how much power we have together. So I just want to get that said. And three, read some things, folks. Read some things.
Right.
David, what should people read? What's like a couple of books if people were listening and said, if I read this, I'd know more about Asian American history. What do you think?
Oh, gosh. I think I would start from, with Grace Lee Boggs.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
the next American Revolution. And, because so much of who she was as a progressive, as a radical, as a justice-obsessed philosopher and public philosopher was centered in love.
Right. That's right.
We do these things, she argues, not because it serves us.
Right.
We seek revolution, not because it seeks us, but we seek revolution because we have love for others.
Amen. That's beautiful. That's so good.
And, it's not Asian American history, but I would certainly go back and read Baldwin's The Fire Next Time. And
Have to do it. Yeah.
you have to. I mean, you have to.
That's part of the text, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it is a text in which he says to, my fellow white Americans, if you don't come to grips with this, it's the fire next time. It is. And, we're seeing the flames of the fire next time all around us.
Yes, we are.
On your second point around, I'll just call it multiracial solidarity.
Yeah.
And this is very hard. I mean, you and I, we're cut from the same cloth. We that is who we are. Right. And yet, under stress and strain, under anxiety and perennial fear,
right,
it is often hard to get enough distance from the immediacy of the pain and that stress and strain and anxiety and all of that to find space in your heart for somebody else.
That's correct.
But we have to remind each other.
Yeah.
We got to remind each other that there's suffering going on for all of us.
Yeah, that's true, love. That's true. That's true.
And, that reminder comes in small and big ways. And, the anti-Asian racism is one way, but look, I mean, anti-Black racism is the everyday. It is the American condition.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
It is the American condition. And, you've heard me say this many times. I am not who I am if it were not the folks from the Black freedom tradition.
Right.
That showed my peoples.
Right.
An example of what it is to fight for justice beyond their own interests. Right?
Amen. Amen.
On the first point around the myth of white supremacy, the thing about myths is that they're not merely stories. They have the quality of truth for people.
Yes, they do. That is so well said.
And so, what are we doing to steer people away from these grand stories that insist on the supremacy and priority of whiteness, not just people, but whiteness.
Whiteness.
In its capitalist expression, in its social expression, in its political expression, in its patriarchy, in its homophobia, and sexism, and all of that.
Yep.
That is really born out of fear.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
That search for racial purity is born out of fear.
Right.
And so what can we do to show that to those folks to say, look, be not afraid.
Yeah.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid. And especially, David, you and I are both people of faith too. Part of our same cloth is, I think those of us who claim faith, I mean, we're in Eid, Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim friends, this time of like reflection and fasting, and we're still in Eastertide in our traditions. But like, how do we say we love our God, and how do we do the Rabbi Jesus love neighbor as self if we don't examine our fear of the other?
Oh yeah.
And with my side hat on, I would say often that fear is because the other is so much like us. project onto the other the thing about us that we hate the most. So let's get ourselves into some therapy, people.
Well, look, I mean,
To-
yeah, but the spiritual therapy and the faith that you're talking about, to me, I mean, I have to tack between the humility of not knowing and the faith, that the confidence born in my faith.
Yep, that's beautiful. That's
Right?
right.
And it's not one or the other. It's always both things.
Both. It's both.
And so that, if you go back to this challenge of multiracial solidarity, it is born of both those things, right? You have to be humble enough to say your suffering is both important to attend to, and someone else's suffering is happening in a way that you may not fully understand.
Correct.
And have the confidence, to have the faith, to say, I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
Because as Christians, we say, because Jesus has been with us.
That's right.
And I can be with you.
Yep. And just kind of dragging some Africanness into the room for a second as it isn't enough. I love that spirit of Ubuntu.
Absolutely.
I am.
Absolutely.
Dr. King translated it. We are inextricably connected in a web of humanity. We are each other's people.
Yeah.
And that includes white people.
Oh, yeah.
So what is the reality that we want to construct together is my prayer, my question, as I sign off to go for a walk with my man who is waiting for me right now.
Well, I don't want to keep you from that beautiful brother, John.
Will you give Amy a big hug for me?
I will. But listen, I mean, I think that, listen, this vision, Jacqui, that you are so an exemplary witness to, of a beloved community of broken hearts, and a beloved community of tired and ragged and forthright justice warriors.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. I'm really so grateful that way over there in Oakland is my brother David, who gets to do it. I get to do it with you.
And my sister Jacqui. I love you. I love you.
I love you too. Give Amy a big kiss for me, okay?
I will.
We need to get into some holy mischief soon.
There we go.
All right, I'm going to take this break and I'm calling you for some mischief. Okay?
Sounds good. Good to see you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, sweetie. Bye.